Doug, I know you guys ranked Kevin Stefanski. Tell me the breakdown, who you had ahead of him, where you had him ranked as far as NFL head coaches go.
I lashed out previously. I'd like to apologize. I like your pocket square. I'm sorry I said that. I didn't mean it. So we did this on our Orange and Brown Talk podcast. I hope people listen to that. We do a round table every Friday where it's me, Ellis Williams, Scott Patsko, Mary Kay Cabot, Dan Lobby, and we often do a draft. And so this Friday, the one out today, we did a draft of every head coach in the NFL. I'll give you my list, but you got to listen to the podcast. I had Kevin Stefanski 7th among NFL head coaches. And we were just going by best, whatever kind of best means to you. To me, it was like if I was starting, a franchise tomorrow and we were pretty good and we're trying to win now, who would I hire, right? So I had Bill Belichick 1. He's Bill Belichick. I really like John Harbaugh and what he's done in Baltimore. He's won with 2 different quarterbacks. I had him 2. Mike Tomlin, I've always respected him, had him 3. I had Sean McVay 4. Pete Carroll 5, Andy Reid 6, and then Kevin Stefanski 7. So the only kind of like younger coach who's not as established that I had ahead of Kevin Stefanski was Sean McVay. And it might be high, but that is based on what the guy did this year, his offensive acumen, his seeming calm and poise in terms of running the organization, and what you think he might be down the road. And it's a remarkable thing. That is, some people might have him higher or lower, but I think a lot of us would agree that if you really think about it, Kevin Stefanski 1 year in really might be one of the 10 best coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. Just the other thing that makes what he did this year more impressive, there was no preseason games, there was no training camp, there was never a way for him to get his hands on his players, if you will, and try to coach them. So there were interesting ways to implement a new offense and a new defense, which I'm kind of interested to see with limited OTAs and training camp and preseason what he does with this Browns team.
A lot of that, I think that's a great point. And I think a lot of us, when we were trying to analyze a COVID season in the NFL, you sort of gave the edge to continuity. Well, staffs that have been together, players that have been in the same system, they probably have an edge. And the Browns didn't have any of that. And they still managed to do what they did and be a playoff team and win a playoff game. So, there's a lot of things he hasn't had the chance to do yet. But I think when you look at him sort of managing a difficult situation, you have some belief that he could manage the next difficult situation. And I don't think anybody doubts his ability as an offensive mind, as a play caller. I do think there's some of this in managing egos in a locker room. Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson are going through it a little bit right now in Seattle. You're a longtime head coach. You have a way you want to do it. You have a very successful player. He might want to do his own thing. We'll see how that goes with Kevin Stefanski. You kind of don't know until you know, which is why I ranked a lot of those older coaches ahead of him. But as was brought up on the podcast, I think Dan Lobby brought it up. It's like, the Browns have had a lot of problems. They have not been a healthy, functional organization. And maybe you give Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry like a little bit of a bonus of like, hey, man, you're not just doing it at Team X. You're doing it for the Browns. And there's a lot of people, GMs and coaches over the years, who have not made it look this smooth in Cleveland. Now, he does have a lot of good players. Nothing makes a coach smarter than having a lot of good players. But still, he seems like the right guy for the job.